on-air talking heads and anti-American people who work for the cable and satellite news companies like CNN, MSNBC, and the rest of the corporate media, along with congressional representatives like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, the Democrat Party at large, leftist university professors across the educational spectrum, and others of their ilk spew a seething hatred of America, capitalism, and democracy, and glorify socialism, a system that makes pie-in-the-sky promises it can't keep and doesn't intend to, especially if they achieve total control. And it is a system that has never worked. At least it has never worked for the common people. Perhaps we should get some cowboys together, have an old-fashioned roundup, and kick their masses out. Maybe to Cuba, China, or North Korea, where they'd have all the socialism and its side effects they could stand, and they could leave the rest of us alone to enjoy our freedom and capitalism-driven prosperity. Speaking of Ilhan Omar, shouldn't we wonder why she's not in prison? A previous news cycle spoke frequently and reported extensively that she married her brother to get him into this country. Federal law requires up to 5 years in prison and $250,000 fine for marriage fraud. The short answer is that she's a Democrat. She's black. We have a two-tier justice system, and she's an America hater like the rest of them, so she's part of the same club and, thus, beyond reproach. Here's a thought. Perhaps the left-wing members of Congress, Marxist college professors, domestic communists, et al., aren't really touting socialism because they think it's a better, fairer system, but because they know it isn't. And it is one of the Jenga pieces they need to carefully move in a reckless way to topple America as the shining city on a hill and leader of the free world. Ask yourself why any American citizen would want to see that happen. But, hold on. There are reasons. As an example, hundreds of tweets and posts showed up on social media criticizing America and Donald Trump in the 2020 election season. A cybersecurity organization from Australia reported that many of these posts were not done by American citizens at all, but by bots and trolls used in a systematic campaign by groups affiliated with China to sow division and unrest in the U.S. ahead of the 2020 election. And China, who wants to dominate the world and displace America as the sole superpower, along with their stooges, the Democrat Party and Joe Biden, the chief Democrat, who went to China on Air Force Two to make deals, clearly succeeded in getting Donald Trump and his America First policy out of their way. Unethically and even illegally, yes, but after the election he was gone nonetheless. A question seeking an answer for quite a long time is whether Mr. Trump was going to repeat that famous movie line of Arnold Schwarzenegger, "I'll be back." Fortunately for the country, he finally did announce at a CPAC meeting that he intended to run again for president, and his campaign has already begun. Coincidentally, a clueless Joe Biden also announced he intends to run again in 2024 despite his dismal performance record and even worse poll numbers. For some reason, he seems to be convinced he is the man who could beat Trump and serve until he's pushing 90. Now we've seen what a 78-year-old Biden can do to us. So what an 85-year-old Biden would do is no secret. His cognitive decline is obvious even to Democrats, and it's not going to get any better as he gets older. He can barely speak in complete sentences, and the words he does try to pronounce are often slurred so badly he makes himself look like the fool he is. And a little fist shaking and shouting, or creepy whispering and hair sniffing, doesn't camouflage his condition. Notice, too, that the Democrats had a lot of help from within this country during the 2020 election, and that help had a lot of layers. According to China expert Gordon Chang, the Chinese Communist Party, i.e., the CCP, has literally declared war on the United States. So far, it's a Cold War, an economic war they have been waging for decades. And apart from Donald Trump's efforts to make China behave, We haven't yet suited up to get in the game. In fact, our political leaders haven't even noticed that there is a game in progress. There are, however, some exceptions, whether deliberate or unintentional. The Chinese use a term we need to be familiar with: elite capture. A good example might be bribing a politician and then blackmailing him to do their bidding or be outed for their bribe. Thus, the politician is captured and forced to provide favors to their captor. China is using every tool in their rice bowl to defeat America without firing a shot. For example, one of their tactics involves using our own people against us to carry out their unrestricted warfare. Joe Biden and his family receive millions from involvement with the Chinese Communist Party. As recently revealed, the Durham report showed 20 shell companies the Bidens have used to hide the money. And several fake names have been used by Joe Biden to mask his communications. So they must know they can get in trouble if it became known what they have been doing. But elite capture is not limited to the Bidens. Eric Swalwell, member of Congress from California, has been accused of sleeping with a Chinese spy. And there are others, not all of which are politicians. Gordon Chang says the Chinese don't want to compete with us in the world market. They want us gone and believe the 21st century should see a China-centric world. Because they believe they are superior to the West and they intend to dominate the world. The Chinese intend to crush liberty, destroy our country, and institute what Xi Jinping calls global governance, directed and enforced from Beijing. For the thinking person, this sounds suspiciously like the one world government of the end times. But time will tell. The only thing the Chinese seem to be superior at currently, however, is espionage, i.e., stealing technology from everybody else, especially the West, learning from us in our universities, and working for American companies to engage in industrial espionage, cheating to make money by currency manipulation, putting into forced labor camps anybody who doesn't support the government, murdering and enslaving the Uyghurs, etc. You have to wonder what China would do if America did sink. Who would they steal from then? Or would they need to? Regardless, what our political leaders need to do is cut China off at the knees, i.e., stop doing business with them, get our allies to engage in the same boycott, forbid American companies from doing business there, and choke China's economy. After all, that's what they want to do with us. But we can get cheap consumer goods by dealing with and producing consumer goods in Mexico, by helping their economy. We get cheap prices, and maybe the millions of illegal aliens living in America would swim back across the river to get jobs there.